case of Lynn Stevens, the teen found hanged in the Pasadena jail May 2, 1976. Officer McFadden swears he conducted a proper investigation, which concluded with the determination that the boy hanged himself. Here's what's wrong with his investigation. McFadden passively mentions that there is a written statement from an informant from 1976, but at the same time admits that the informant never implicated Danny Stevens in writing, only orally in the investigation McFadden was conducting. It all started with that informant, whose identity is still unknown to this day. They alone pointed the finger at many people, some living at Grand Park Village, apartment number 80. One individual was Lynn Stevens, and another a boy named Bruce Wayne Parker. This informant kick-started an investigation of almost 24 CB radio thefts, but also began an unstoppable chain of events that ended with Danny found hanging in the Pasadena City Jail on May 2, 1976. It began in late April. Police set up surveillance on Bruce Wayne Parker's car, relying on the informant's information, saying he drove a 1957 red Ford used in the thefts. They pulled him over for traffic tickets on April 29, 1976. He was questioned on the thefts, and then pointed the finger at Danny. Danny was arrested later that day at his home, using his overdue traffic citations as a pretext for an arrest. McFadden swears he got a written statement from Bruce Wayne Parker, but that statement also does not exist in the in-custody death report that McFadden later gave to the FBI. These records are essential because they are the exact reason why they took the actions that resulted in Danny being confined and ultimately ending up dead. Reportedly, the next day around 10:30 a.m., Danny was interviewed and denied any involvement in burglaries of CB radios or a motorcycle. The interview ended, and as McFadden was escorting Danny from the detective division, Danny somehow bolted from McFadden. Presumably left unhandcuffed in a non-secure area, officers claim he ran out the south main doors, around the west side of the building and northbound, to a parking garage. He climbed over a wall, continued running, and jumped down about 4 feet to a lower level. McFadden claims that he, along with Officer Gilbreth, Officer McRae, Officer Satterwhite, and Officer Nassif, apprehended Danny without injuring him. However, none of those officers gave affidavits except Nassif. Nassif is also the SWAT officer involved in the 1991 SWAT operation leading to Marvin William Harris's death. In his affidavit, he claims to have tripped early in the chase and injured himself, and not have made contact with Danny, and asked his Lieutenant Goad for permission to go to the hospital. Lieutenant Goad clearly had ties to the FBI, and Officer Satterwhite was later found in his career to have been drunk on duty multiple times and was suspended 3 times, but never fired. So the only allegedly credible person to have documented what happened in that parking garage is McFadden himself, the same detective investigating the in-custody death. In the entire 90-page in-custody death report, no officers reported that Danny had suicidal ideations during his confinement, just that he was eager to make bond after they lift his hold for investigation and kept asking to use the phone to call his mother. One officer described him as moody, but also said he was in a good mood and happy when he saw his mother hours before his death and was shocked to learn he had taken his life. McFadden also cannot explain how the death allegedly happened. Danny was placed in a straitjacket and put alone in a padded cell because he was being disruptive. McFadden claims Danny somehow escaped the straitjacket. Then there is the issue of the hook bracket in the cell. One report says it was loose, another says the anchor screw was missing entirely. They never clarify which is true. McFadden theorized that Danny loosened the screw using the metal tip of the belt buckle from the strap of the straitjacket, which is absurd, and within a 15-minute window, they claim he escaped the jacket, altered or used the buckle tip, tied a noose, and suspended himself barely off the ground, and by the time he was found, he could not be revived. After his death, additional problems appear in the documentation. An officer, Roland Glenn Wells, took photographs of the scene and of Danny's hanging body, but he never photographed Danny's neck. The collar of the long-sleeve shirt Danny was wearing covered the ligature area, and there is no clear photograph showing the neck, so the most critical area was never documented. Additionally, Danny's hands look as if they have signs of lividity, but police claim to have taken the photographs very shortly after his death, and he was removed by 12:45 when the Pasadena funeral home removed his body, so lividity cannot be possible. Later, police claimed that a woman named Judy Hawkins, allegedly his common-law wife, came to the funeral home and tampered with his body, leaving nail marks on his neck and attempting to pour soda down his throat. They obtained affidavits from funeral home employees to support that claim. But this becomes a convenient explanation, because without any photographs of Danny's neck taken at the time of death, there is no way to verify whether those marks existed before or after. There is also a forensic problem with that claim. A dead body does not have active blood circulation, so it cannot produce true bruising, redness, or inflammatory responses like a living body can. Nail marks that appear red or bruised generally require blood flow and tissue response at the time the injury is inflicted. If the body had already been embalmed, this becomes even more unlikely, because embalming further prevents any such visible reactions. That makes the claim that noticeable nail marks suddenly appeared after death highly questionable. And the Pasadena funeral home claimed they saw no such injuries when preparing the body, so presumably he has been embalmed and was not left to decompose in the funeral home's viewing room. If proper photographs had been taken, they could have shown that his neck was clear and unaffected, and then conclusively proven that someone tampered with the body afterward. That should have resolved the issue. Instead, no such photographs have ever been produced, and the most important evidence was never documented, or is held by the medical examiner's office. The case was never truly explained. In McFadden's own report, he states Danny lived with roommates at 347 Ritchie apartment number 80, which we have confirmed is a one-bedroom apartment. There is no mention of a common-law wife or girlfriend. Danny's best friend also confirmed that he was not married, had no common-law wife, and no girlfriend at the time. To this day, no one has answered how any of this makes sense, and the report remains full of contradictions, missing records, and unsupported claims. Additionally, the Pasadena police boasted to the Pasadena Citizen newspaper that they had closed over 20 cases because of Bruce Wayne Parker's arrest, but the truth is, they only recovered 2 radios and were unable to find any evidence of any significant organized theft operations, and even returned some property to one of the accused after they raided their home with a search warrant obtained by the use of the informant. This warrant is also not in the in-custody death report. Any reasonable observer would come to the conclusion Danny was clearly murdered by the police, especially after the Harris County Chief Medical Examiner, Joseph Yaham Chick, was exposed for falsifying autopsies and illegal tissue harvesting. And the Pasadena police settled the in-custody death lawsuit of Moises de la O, who was found hanging in the same padded cell in 1994, with clear signs of homicide. The family sued for $27 million and settled on an undisclosed amount, but it is believed to have been in the millions.